What to tell a little black boy? I have a little cousin, 12 years old. It's cute as a button. Soon, he's just on the cusp, but soon he'll be going through puberty. He'll start growing quickly, looking at his parents. He'll be of decent size. He's a boy who likes sports, so he's pretty athletic. He enjoys school and does it well. He's a curious little boy and likes looking at life and the world around him. What do I tell him when he sees Trayvon Martin and he sees the outrage, both in the media and in the public, and in the politics, and when he goes to school? What does the teacher tell him? I have a hoodie of his that I washed. He left it at my mother's house when I last visited there. And it's from his football team where he lived last. They've moved away from there to a small southern town. And luckily, they are protected by the aura of the military in that town. And that respect, I think, is accorded many military families. However, I look at this little hoodie that I have of my little cousin's. I return to him, and I can't help but think, in light of this Trayvon Martin case, the shootings in Tulsa, Arizona, just a few days ago around Easter, what do I tell these little boys, even as something as a hoodie, which for all real purposes is a practical piece of clothing um, for a parent to put on their child. I mean, the weather in our part of the country changes during the day, especially in spring and fall. So you maybe need to be cooler in the day and warmer at night, and to have one piece of clothing. It it sounds silly to talk about something as simple as this thread, as this cotton, that's so essential to our economy in the South. And yet here we are again, where we have this iconic symbol of oppression and empowerment at the same time. And how am I to untangle this for this little kid who sees what's going on, who knows, who sees on the news, five hoodies shot, one hoodie shot, one hoodie shot another hoodie, one hoodie shot another hoodie. Not news at 10, but just between the news, between and betwixt what's really going on in the world, the Masters Cup, the weather. There were some puppies rescued in one part of town. This is just a normal news is going on. Days are going on. Days are going by. And so when we come to encountering each other outside of the classroom, which is, I think, one of the most important places where we learn to speak about these issues, not just as I as a parent or I as a caretaker of one young person, but me as a caretaker of a group of young people in the classroom, we have the responsibility to teach them how to filter all of this information that we're feeding them. And I ask myself in this Trayvon Martin case, what do I tell these little boys? Not just as a cousin, but as someone who works in the classroom. What I told my university students, well, I had them look at a hoodie and look at me and look at me wearing a hoodie. And knowing who I am in that classroom and on that campus versus who I am as an anonymous person, veiled. It's very striking because people really had to question, well, actually, do black men commit more crimes than other people? It's easy to believe that when you believe the narrative of the hoodie, and not just black men in the UK, in the sense black is that black and that impoverished caste of people, poor, what they call chavs, this class of people who, the lost youth, people will call them. If youth are lost, it's our responsibility to navigate, not to steer, but to navigate, to provide compass, a moral compass, people will call it, and to see that there are generations of people in the world with wearing the icon of this hoodie, the poor, the working class, the so-called black of the society. And if you look across the world, there are many such peoples in every society. Every society has its niggers. So these are kind of the discussions that I have in my classroom. And interestingly enough, these are the kinds of questions that those children most targeted by who can be shot down by looking the wrong way in the wrong place, by when looking suspicious can get you killed. And looking suspicious, part of looking suspicious is being what people like Zimmerman have made clear for us, in case we weren't aware of this implicit sort of idea that we have about one another across race. What Zimmerman's case has done for us is say that, and people have speculated about what's his motivation, racial in the sense of did he go out to kill a black man? Well, that's what's most troubling about it is, he likely didn't just go out and have it in him like the two guys in Tulsa who went out to shoot. The explicit racial derogatory as it's reported in the news. And I don't want to give men like that ownership of the word nigger. I think we have to reclaim it in the sense of not fear saying it like Voldemort, as if the mere utterance of the word labels one a racist such that we have to not say it. It's not a four-letter word. It's much filthier than that. It has much larger cultural connotations, and every society has its niggers. And this is what I would also want young children to know, like my little cousins. I have another little cousin. He's now 15 going on 16. Again, awkward teenage year, to me he's a kid, but to somebody on the street, the same awkward little guy becomes a threat, and that is disturbing to me. It's so disturbing to me that I have to talk about it. Like, it warrants us talking about not just within our families, but across families. And again, I urge us as educators, people working in the classroom, to listen to children, give them the opportunity to speak rather than dictate to them what they should think about this. I've told you what I thought, and I told you how some of the myths that I had to dispel in my own classroom about who people were as this public icon. So I know that children of all ages, children of all grade levels, are interested and curious about this. How do I know this? Because I have little cousins who are in all of those age groups, from elementary school to middle school to high school and university, that are anonymous. There's construction going on outside the wall here in Hanoi. But these guys who are anonymous on the streets of America, so anonymous that their votes don't count, their rights don't count. And it is, at the end of the day, it's not just that we're talking about the icon of a hoodie, we're talking about the reality of 1 in 10 black men under one of the arms of the criminal justice system. And that's a phenomenal rate. That's an alarming rate. And on one hand, again, it could suggest that this is an inherently violent, criminal-minded group of people. That would be one assumption. But I think that as a society that is deeply invested in anti-racism and unlearning what we've been taught over the sort of founding years of this nation, that we are interested in looking deeply at these questions. Dare I say philosophically. But when I say philosophically, I mean in a very Socratic way. Ask children, listen to what they have to say about it. Ask them what they've heard. Listen to what they have to say about it. Just ask. The same way that children ask, why, what, why do I have to do this? Why? Well, use their language to have this conversation, this dialogue about social difference in this society and how they feel about it. And oftentimes people who interview children, particularly young children, they find that They don't differentiate. That we teach them to differentiate. And so, what is it that we're doing? I think we can learn from them. Is that what is it that we're doing that by the time they're cute little brown as a button kids or cute little white as a button kids to monsters by the time they're teenagers, threats to society. What is it that we are instilling in all of our citizens that creates such an uproar that people will kill for it and that people will die for it and it will not go noticed? These are the real martyrs of our society. That's what I would tell the young people in my environment. And I urge you to just have these conversations with the young people around them so that we can learn to unlearn whatever it is we have been teaching one another, the myths that we have been telling about one another, that result in this great hatred and fear, disgust, loathing, I would say. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't instances of love, and I think that that's why we have to celebrate when there is love, when there is dialogue, when there is discourse around, across, forgetting all these issues. Those are instances we have to celebrate as well. Equally, we have to look at this is an American tragedy. And just as I would discuss any classical tragedy, I would want to have our children understand our society and the narratives that we tell each other. Thank you very much.